Who is the most famous person in your contacts? I don't think any of us really want to share.
I'm not going to give a specific name, but I have worked for recently the San Francisco 49ers, the Arizona Cardinals.
No one big on that.
Hi, I'm Eric Finkelstein, VP and Head of Event Operations for the NBA.
I'm Jordan Hogan, wide receivers coach for the University of Massachusetts.
And I'm Cassandra Negley, Yahoo sports reporter covering the WNBA and women's college basketball. We are all alumni of SUNY Brockport, and today we'll be answering questions about our careers and the path from college to the professional sports industry. The first thing I did was I was a fellow at the Arizona Republic. So I covered the Diamondbacks a little bit and the Cardinals and the Mercury and some high school stories. I loved it. I made an okay salary at the time. Got to cover Brittany Griner and Diana Taurasi and a whole bunch of cool players. Yeah.
Eric?
My first job was I was an intern for the Red Wings, and then they kept me on through the end of the year. And then I got a job with the Mets. Working.
LGM, let's go.
Yes. Mets
wow.
fan.
Yes. See, we have a lot in common. And I worked in the ticket office, so not as exciting. I was a telemarketer, so that was the Mets weren't good, and the people were not happy to hear from me. But then they actually made it to the playoffs at the end of that season.
I mean, for me, I actually had 3 jobs after I graduated. My first job was I was actually detailing cars at Delta Sonic. Easy way to make some quick, easy bucks.
Yep.
Then my second job was because I majored in broadcast journalism, so I was able to get an intern position with WGF 550. Obviously, that's a flag station for the Buffalo Bills and Buffalo Sabres. It was at the time when I realized, I'm going to have to really put in some major years before I even make a dime. And my third job was I was working a mom and pop camp in the area in Buffalo at Buffalo State. It was a football camp working with receivers and quarterbacks. And the Buffalo State football staff was there. And the head coach at the time, Coach Boyes, offered me basically an opportunity to be the JV receivers coach. And after 4 years, I was able to pretty much move on to bigger and better things.
Jordan, you have to start.
Well, so this is my 13th year coaching. So I've coached, and I like to not so much brag, but I do when I'm interviewing, especially now recently, I like to just touch on that. I literally have coached at every single level from Division III to FCS to FBS to obviously the NFL. But clearly the pinnacle or the white horse or the white bronco when you're talking about football is obviously being able to have the opportunity to at least get to a Super Bowl. And for me to be able to have coached and been that close to being able to have a Super Bowl trophy and ring in my man cave is something that I'll never forget. The best part about it was that even though we didn't win the game, but obviously me coming from the Division III ranks, coming from Brockport, and being able to represent all of Division, well, not all, but to represent Division III on that platform a couple of years ago was really awesome. It was great. And more importantly, my family, my wife, my 2 daughters were able to be in Las Vegas for the entire week during the Super Bowl week, which is obviously a crazy type of just event outside of the football game. So for me, it's definitely being able to coach and be a part of the Super Bowl.
I just finished covering my 4th Final Four. So those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And obviously I covered the WNBA, but I was in the gym when Iowa and Caitlin Clark defeated South Carolina in that semifinal. Very electric, very cool. Obviously no one thought they were going to win. So that was fun. And then I've covered everything Caitlin Clark has done over the last year. So it was cool to be in the gym when she broke the record.
That's really cool.
And Pete's record. I was telling some people earlier, there's just an electricity when she's in the room. So that was the coolest.
For me, we would need a lot more time to go through all of them. But I will say, I guess I've told the story a few times, but I will share with both of you. Yes. My first draft at the NFL was the 2000 draft.
Okay.
Yes, I'm old. And I back in the day, you had team tables that were set up that were basically representatives from the team that were responsible for literally filling out a card with the name of the player that was being selected. There were NFL league employees, that are the reps, that were responsible to physically take the card, hold it up so the clock operator could keep the clock moving, and then also tell the next team who is about to be announced while it was being vetted before it was actually announced. So, because as soon as the card is literally held up, the next team is on the clock. So you want to give them every minute of that time. So that was my first draft. So I ran, as we called it, a table runner for round 6. I was low man on the totem pole in 2000. And so if anyone knows what happened in that draft, a certain quarterback for the New England Patriots was drafted. I forget his name, Brady.
Tom, Tom, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So
I know by the GOAT. So.
Yes. Fair enough. And so I was handed his card to hand in.
Wow.
So I guess outside of the Patriots, I was the first person to know that Tom Brady was about to be drafted by the team before it was announced. Of course, at the time, everyone was like, I saw the card. I was like, oh, Drew Henson's backup from Michigan. And it's like, okay. And so, but who knew? But that was kind of a cool moment.
That is ultra cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay. If you're considering SUNY Brockport, there are incredible professors who are going to be with you for life, who can help you better yourself and make connections and learn valuable lessons to grow in this career. And then if I still have seconds here, I think what we're all learning this weekend is there are people like us who you can tap into. And when you go to a small school, you are prioritized maybe a little more than being a small fish in a big pond.
You kind of stole mine, but that's okay.
You could have gone first.
I know. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. That's fair. So I'll do less than 30 seconds.
Okay, good.
Okay. And I will say that coming to SUNY Brockport, I will give you exhibit A, B, and C right before you of what we have had the ability to accomplish. I don't think we would have been as prepared for the next level and the next step if it weren't for the opportunities that presented themselves that we tried to take advantage of, maybe not fully, but that really prepared us for the next step of our careers.
And I would just piggyback on that because we're all in the same elevator, so I don't have to say too much.
That's so smart. Good job, Jordan.
I would say, we're a small college with big resources. It doesn't matter, whatever your profession is, whatever you want to do. There's going to be someone in the field that can help you get to where you want to go. For me, one of my mentors is still here. It's Coach Mangone. He recruited me out of high school. He was probably the toughest guy who's ever coached me, and he turned me into the type of young man, father, and ultimately coach that I am today. So whatever you want to do, you can definitely do it here at Brockport.
I wanted to write about sports, and that's what I do. I don't know that I had a sport that I wanted to do, but I could not be more happy that women's basketball is where it is right now, that I can do this. I
wanted to be on ESPN sportscaster, and then I got to Brockport, and I'll never forget it. It was either intro to broadcast journalism. We're downstairs in the one building with the studio, and we were reading off a teleprompter. And I'm like, holy crap, this is a lot harder than it looks. And I'm like, I think I'm going to switch from the TV to the radio. And then after college, I did a little internship with WGR 550. I realized I wasn't going to make any money, but I always knew I wanted to still be a part of sports. And obviously, with me being a football player, coaching kind of was my next transition into still being part of the profession, or at least part of the industry. So definitely far away from being on ESPN and broadcasting, but at least I'm still a part of the game of football.
For me, when I was 10 years old, my father took me for the first time to spring training. I was always a big baseball fan, as we've already covered, Met fan.
Yeah. LGM.
Yes, yep. LGM. Hashtag that one. Yeah. But I went down to spring training and I stayed at the the same hotel with the team. And I met Bob Murphy, who was the radio announcer for the Mets from day one and was still doing it until he did it for like over 30 years. But at the time, I went up and introduced myself because, that was the voice of summer to me. That's the voice I had on in the background. And I was more excited to meet him and than even some of the players. And he was so kind to me and so nice. And even I ran into him another time. We were like eating in the hotel, and he called me over and he said, "I hope to see you out at Shea Stadium this year." And so that meant so much to me as a 10-year-old that I said, I want to be him when I grow up. And so that stayed with me. And I made the decision to focus, my track on broadcasting specifically. I was looking at doing play-by-play like him in baseball, and came here and did everything at the radio station from day one to learn. And then I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Similar, Jordan, to what you were saying. I said, this is a lot. And then started doing other things, including I was the promotions director, which is essentially the events guy at the station. I was the operations manager. I was like, I like this stuff. And then I interned for the Red Wings. And then I was like, I think I want to work for a team or a front office of a league after all. And I did all of the above.
Oh, actually, I was just telling someone this. In college, Rick Woodson, the great Rick Woodson.
Yeah, I still have his book.
Yeah, me too. I have his stamps in my Zoom picture. But he told us in class one day that you're never going to bat 100%. Like if you're batting 300, you're doing pretty well. And I always want to give my best, and I do give my best, but my best is not always going to be like an award-winning article every night. And that's something I've really just continuously tuned into.
It's good. Yeah. The best advice, I think, it was by example. It really wasn't spoken to me. But when I started at the NFL, the team of people that I worked with had been there for multiple years, and they certainly were good at what they did to pull together Super Bowls and drafts and all the other events in between. I learned very quickly to always think or try to stay 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And you always have to anticipate and see what's coming so that you can be prepared to deal with it. Check the boxes you can when you can. So the things that are the low hanging fruit, the easy stuff, get those out of the way. And then you're in a better position to react to things as they come up, especially in the industry that I'm in.
I guess my advice that I received early on is really simple. Somebody's always watching you, and they're watching you for the good and for the bad. Especially in the atmospheres or not atmosphere, but in the environments that we're in. Whether we're the top person or the person on the bottom. Whether people are looking for people to come in for changes or things along those natures. Like somebody's always watching you, and you always want to be on your best behavior. Whether I got my job with the Arizona Cardinals was by a person that I was affiliated with from Buffalo. We had never met, but he found out about me a couple of years ago that I worked for the Buffalo Bills, and my name just kept being brought around through different NFL channels. And then he did some backstory on me, and then he realized that we're from the same hometown. He called a couple guys that he had knew throughout the league, and then they gave me a really good recommendation, and then he was able to give my name to Cliff Kingsbury. And that was how I had no ties to Arizona. I mean, I'm from Buffalo, so I have no ties to Cliff Kingsbury, who is basically a walking legend in the state of Texas. So, but for me, it's just as simple as just knowing that somebody's always watching for the good and for the bad, and you just never know when you're gonna get a phone call.
Well, I'll go first on this one.
Yes, Eric.
Yes. So the one that comes to mind will probably surprise both of you, and that's why I'm going to say it. And that was puppet theater.
Oh, tell us more.
That's right.
Where was this when we were in college?
It doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Did you get it? Did you get it axed?
No, I hope not. I got an A-, I think, in that class. But I worked harder in that class than any other class that I took throughout my 4 years of school. And the professor, Dr. Cho, was very serious about puppet making. He was a very passionate man about this field. And I convinced other people from the radio station to take the class with me. And
amazing.
I learned how to sew. Because he said, no machines. You have to do it all by hand.
Fix your puppet.
Yeah. So you have to. And so I learned very quickly to glue like a kerchief or something around the neck because my sewing was not excellent. I think that's why I got the A-. But I think I thought it was going to be just a lot of fun. And I'd be like, but I worked harder in that class and I really enjoyed it. I was always a big fan of Jim Henson. So secretly, I was like, this could be a fun little outlet.
All right.
Do you still have your puppets?
I do have two. I have two of them. Yes.
Do you play with them? Are they out? Like, do your kids?
Yeah, that
have
seems
them?
creepy, but yes, I have them. I don't know if I necessarily play with them, but I have done a couple of skits with my daughter at least, where we've performed for my other roommates, my wife and son.
I love it. Yes, this is great. From one set of roommates to the next.
Exactly right.
For
do you have
me,
a class?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was a simple class of just like intro to dance. And I love to dance. But I think the thing that I loved about the class was that, like, obviously, it was a pretty big class, probably about 25 to 30 of us in the class. And, you get like 4 or 5 people that actually like really like the first up, like they don't mind like kind of being front and center, which I was probably one of those people. But the rest of the class was kind of shy, kind of like waited to like get to know everyone. And the thing that I liked the most about the class was it allowed me to kind of step into almost like a leadership role. It allowed me to kind of just like, hey, like, it's okay. Like, we're all going to be goofy together. And obviously, on the football field, sometimes you got to get people to come out of their shells. You got to get people or guys to be able to, play at a different level. Our teacher was amazing. I forget her name, but she was amazing. And it's definitely one of the things that I look back on. Like, I actually thought about actually minoring in dancing because of how much I enjoyed that class.
Wow.
That's impressive. I'm sitting here like listening to you guys. Like, did I actually have fun in college? I did take intro to golf, but that's not the class I'm going to talk about. Although I do golf now.
I need to start.
I love it. It's great. It's great. You got to go to like your city course though. Like, don't bother with the other courses. I can do it alone. I can go wherever. So it seems wild, but when I started here in 2009, like, this was not a business for women. There just weren't a lot. And so to come in here wanting to cover sports, like before classes started, I think I had showed up at the Stylus and there was a sports editor. We're now friends. He will probably see this. He had asked me, I went up, I was like, I want to cover sports. And he was like, are you serious? And he thought it was a joke that like his friends were pulling on him that like this girl wants to cover sports. And so to go into intro to news writing with Rick Woodson and it like wasn't even a thing. He was just like, oh, you want to cover sports? And he like took me under his wing and I became his TA in his last year here, the year that he died. Like that man and him just like only caring that I was interested in covering sports and like nothing else, that I think about him often, all the time.
Rick was awesome. I took like a couple of his classes.
The legend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel bad now talking about puppet theater.
No, I want to have like more fun stories. Like, you guys are so insightful about puppet theater and dancing.
Yeah, I love my dance.
Right off the top, we were just talking about this at the Final Four. This is a fun job. I'm sure we could all agree. Like, this is fun, but it's really hard. It is work at the end of the day. There's in the super regionals, the way the NCAA designs their super regionals now, there is a day where you have to be at the arena at 7 a.m. for first avails. And by the time you leave, it's probably 10 p.m. And that's kind of pretty common. I'm sure you both have experienced that during busy times. So it is hard work.
For me, not to get too personal, but like you have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Whatever is closest to your heart. You're going to pay. I don't want to say you're going to pay the price, but like if you want to go get to where you want to go, which is probably the top of your mountain, whatever professional or industry that you want to be in, like you're going to have to sacrifice something. And usually the first thing off the bat is usually financial, things. You're definitely not going to make any. I can't speak for your professions, Eric and Cassie, but like in coaching, if you're at Brockport Division III, you're usually, I think right now there's still the restricted earnings positions. You're looking at 10 to maybe 15, 20K. And I did that for my first 4 years at Buffalo State. And it was after my third or fourth year, I was like, all right, like something's got to give, God. And luckily for me, I'm a religious guy. The Lord sent a sign. I got a phone call from Stonehill College, which is in Boston, Massachusetts. And my career just took off after that. But I get asked a lot of times from young coaches, like, hey, like, how do you do? Like, how do you jump to the NFL? I'm like, well, you got to first pay your dues. But like your first couple of years, you're going to be eating ramen noodles. You're going to be eating off the Wendy's value menu 4-for-4 deals. Like it's rough. But if you have a good plan, you have some people in your back corner that want to sow into, you can do it. But like, just know, like, be prepared to, I don't want to say struggle, but be ready to just work for it, literally.
Yeah, I made $26K in my first full-time job, and I'd show up to basketball games with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Yeah. You just have to.
Now that would be Crustables. So yeah.
Crustables are expensive.
Are they?
You make your own peanut butter and jelly.
Oh. I eat peanut butter and jelly every day still to this day.
Okay.
For what it's worth. It's a personal preference more than a cost thing.
It's a good sandwich.
But I think I'm even wearing peanut butter and jelly socks today.
Okay.
I saw them earlier. I was wondering. Yeah.
So I appreciate the segue into this world. I think it's a lot of the same themes that you really have to put in the work. You have to make the sacrifices. You can't expect that you're going to be a vice president in a year, or I've paid my dues. Now, it's time for me to get elevated. And so you really have to learn. You have to be willing to invest in yourself and in the time that it takes to get yourself to that next step. Everyone always says, or a lot of people say, hey, how did you get your job? And a lot of people's answers are, I was in the right place at the right time, right? Right. But you have to put yourself in that position, right? So you have to, you're building your network, you're willing to do things. If my ultimate goal be the head of event operations for the NBA, that's not happening overnight. When I was going here, didn't anticipate, all of the different twists and turns. The fact that I worked in 3 different, professional leagues is certainly not something that I ever anticipated, but it ultimately led me to where I am today.
We've kind of talked about sacrifice. I don't think your education prepares you for the juggle of being an adult, the juggle of your career, of these guys, you guys have kids at different life stages. Like, I don't have kids, but I have dogs and a husband, and, we all have friends and family, and, working in these kinds of careers themselves take juggling that I don't think you maybe learn how to do always in your education. And then you have to juggle everything else too, and holidays and visits. And
I can piggyback off that. Just as Cassie just mentioned, like when I was I'm 33 right now. So when I was 28, the decisions I was making, whether I'm trying to go be the receivers coach at Ohio State, I'm moving at a different pace because I'm single. I don't have anyone to take care of. I don't have anyone that's really, on my mind now that I'm, I've been married for 5 years. I have 2 daughters. Everything that I do, whether it's taking an interview at a FCS, FBS, NFL job, only thing I care about is my daughters. If I interview and I get this job that, might double my salary, okay, but that's good for me, but is that good for my wife or for my kids? Okay, we're going to move across the country, or those are the things that, as you grow older and you have to actually start thinking and operating outside of what's best for you, you have to operate what's best for your family. So that would be something for me.
Your education can never fully prepare you for the decisions you have to make.
Correct. Yeah. You're not just making a decision for yourself. Yeah. You're making a decision, it certainly is a collective that you have to make sure works for the entire team. When I made the decision to leave the NFL after almost 24 years and go to the NBA, I certainly didn't make that in a vacuum. And I needed to make sure that everyone on my team was aligned with the decision. So had lots of conversations related to that. There's only so much you're going to learn in a textbook that you really need the real life experience. That's why I think it's critical, especially at this stage, when you're in school, to get as much experience as you can to really figure things out. That's your time to learn and grow, not only all the great things you're learning in the classroom, but also what extracurricular things can you do around that. I did an internship each summer to try to best understand and learn the different things of what I wanted to ultimately get to and do. And it helped prepare me, along with the things I learned in the classroom, to make me more well-rounded. So you have to have both sides of that in order to get to the next step.
I definitely enjoyed my time with the athletics department. Obviously, being on the football team and being able to be one of the many faces of the football program. And, I'm really happy that, the program has definitely got turned around with Coach Mangone. But just, I'm really proud to say I'm from Brockport. I went to school here, obviously in my profession and, the people that I've come across with, whether it's the NFL or certain avenues or when I'm at conferences, I'm at tables, I'm in rooms of people that have played and coached at high ranking, organizations and universities. And, I always stand up and say, I played at, the college, SUNY Brockport. And I'm really happy that I went to school here and was able to get a degree from here.
I don't have one memory, but It's the friends, right? It's the people that you have from this time. I'm still very close with all of them. I've been to all of their weddings. We visit each other and see each other. I lived in the townhomes when I was a senior, and to be able to live with my best friends and just have them close when you leave college, your friends are no longer super close. They're super far away, and you juggle lives and kids and relationships, and you don't see them a lot. So when I think of Brockport, I always think of the people.
I think for me, it certainly starts and ends with the radio station and just, I was part of renaming the station, The Point.
Really?
Yes.
That's a did you know fact.
Yeah, I do tell.
My roommate, who actually is congressional correspondent for NBC, Ryan Nobles, my roommate back here, obviously, he was, as part of his senior project, was responsible for coming up with a new name. And I suggested The Point because I had seen a station in Florida I was like, oh, that's a cool name. And it stuck. That was the one that he ultimately proposed and people liked. So
you're just behind the scenes on all these things.
Yeah, it's staying behind the scenes. Listen, what would life be without me?
Good Lord.
The advice I would give Brockport students is to try a bunch of things, try puppet theater and dance classes and take the golf class, work hard and just get involved, be involved, because all three of us sitting here, we're very involved. And I think we credit that a lot for sitting here now.
I would echo, I think, a lot of that and just say, make the most of your time. This is the time to really learn and about yourself, about the things you like, about the things that you want to do for the rest of your life. Are you going to figure it all out when you're in school? Absolutely not. But you need to start eliminating things, or at least see the things that you gravitate towards. And you can't do that unless you put yourself in the position to really learn about the different things that exist. Take advantage of them. There are so many opportunities and things that are in this market alone. If you're looking to work in sports, there are a ton of different resources that are at your fingertips, and you can volunteer to do certain things just to get some experience, and you never know where it could lead.
I guess for me, obviously, I'm the coach, so it's just whatever you want to do, just make sure you're fully committed to it. You don't want to be 1 foot in, be 2 foot in. Commit to it. Use all your resources. Don't be shy. Take advantage of all the resources and all the people that we have here. and go take it. You know, somebody, you're going to be fighting for a position, whether it's an interview or whether it's a position or you're trying to get a promotion. You're going to be fighting with someone, whether that's male or female. You want to make sure that you come out on top. So just make sure that you're always prepared. You're ready to answer that phone call. When it's your time, be ready to knock it out of the ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just, I guess, add one other thing along those lines, which is essentially you have to put yourself in a position to stand out, right? Yeah. Because the supply and demand is real, right? There's only so many jobs. I could leave tomorrow and there'd be 10,000 resumes for my position.
There's always someone out there.
There's and everyone would do it, and they would probably do it for less money.
Yeah. Yes.
to get in there and to get the opportunity. So you really have to stand out, put yourself in a position to be able to make it and see where it takes you.